Hey, it's Jesse. If you've ever wondered how much money people are actually making renting to students next to the University of Washington in Seattle, I'm going to go over that right now, so stick around. The video you see behind me is a walkthrough of one of these two houses. There's actually two houses that are 7 bedrooms apiece, side by side. I went through one, so those are the numbers that I'm going to go over. And I figured I would use this as an example since I've been having a lot of kind of the same conversation with prospective buyers. You know, why the U district, what's different. So I'll try and hit the high level main bullet points, and I'll use this one that we walk through. Those are the numbers that I'm going to be giving here. So as I said, 7 bedrooms. This one has 2 1/4 bath, and it currently rents for $6,650 a month, which already that should be a signal. Most people aren't renting a single family house of this size for $150 a month, so pretty substantial. That comes out to $950 a bedroom. The next aspect of U District housing that is maybe a little bit unique is the way that things are leased up. So you don't have to do it this way, but generally speaking, we see a lot of people run this way where they have a single lease, even though these people aren't usually related. We have a single lease with all the tenants on it, and their parents are also going to be co-signers oftentimes on that lease. And the reason for that is, I think it should be obvious. Everyone is sort of self-policing, keeping the honest people honest. So when I talk to people that have owned in the U District for 20, 30 years, of course, the first question that their friends would raise is, oh, aren't kids coming in here just wrecking stuff and punching holes in walls and getting drunk and trashing the place? Generally, no. Because everyone knows that they're all on the hook if their idiot roommate breaks something, and it gets solved before it's ever really a problem, because their parents are going to be on the hook too. No one wants that. So every couple years, maybe some person will come through and trash their room or punch a hole in a door or something like that, but it is not nearly as common as the people who are on the outside looking in would be afraid that it's going to go that way. The next thing that is maybe a little bit unique is, broadly speaking, almost all of the utilities are going to be in the tenant's name. So water, sewer, garbage, electric, gas, all of that, it's either directly billed to them or it's collected by the owner and just worked into the amount of rent, or it's a utility bill back. Rentals in the U District are not paying utilities. So bring those two variables together, higher than average rents and lower than average utility costs. And across the board, rule of thumb, usually people are looking at about a 20 to a 25% expense ratio that they're putting towards all of these bills, rather than the usual 30 to 35% is what we see in multifamily just across the area. And back to expenses, the owners are usually covering insurance, taxes, putting aside money to fix stuff up, any amount of fees or business you hire to help you lease up if you choose to do that, and then management fees, again, if you choose to do that. So the owners that are running the lowest expenses ratio, the 18 to 22% crowd, they're leasing the buildings up themselves whenever they need to, and they're going by and doing whatever management tasks come up, and that saves them quite a bit. For reference, as far as rent growth, if we were to raise the rents on the same property from $950 a month to $1,100 a month, which is very feasible, especially over the next couple of years, you would now be bringing in between $70,000 and $75,000 a year after your expenses. And that would be assuming you're keeping the expense ratio around 20-25%, roughly the same. Next thing, taxes, write-offs. This is something that I know most people are at least familiar with, but I don't think enough people give this as much attention as they should when they're calculating the overall profitability of a property like this. So the normal standard tax write-off is you take the overall purchase price, you have to back out the tax assessed value of the land. In this scenario, that is roughly $600,000 is the value of the land here, maybe a little more, maybe a little less based on the year. It's just on county tax records. You can go look it up for any property, which means the house itself is calculated to be between $300,000 and $400,000. There's your value of your depreciable asset. So you take that, let's call it $350,000, divided by 27 and a half years. That's the standard deduction timeline. And that is your annual tax write-off. Just a straight line standard deduction. You take that off every year for 27 and a half years. Or you can elect to do a cost segregation study, which I'm sure some people have maybe heard once or twice. Maybe some people are very, very familiar with it. Without going into any detail, that is where you bring in a specialist and they tally up every single item: the floors, walls, ceiling, roof, appliances, electrical, driveways, everything inside and out. And they calculate the value and the usable lifespan of that item. And a lot of them will come up to lasting less than 27 and a half years, which means you can write off that value over a shorter time frame. Now, again, rule of thumb, this is not, a super accurate number. Sometimes it'll be a little bit more, a little bit less, but your rule of thumb should be about 20% of the depreciable asset value. So let's use real numbers. In this scenario, we're estimating about $350,000. And if we come out to roughly 20% of that $350,000, that's 70 grand. Maybe it's 60, maybe it's 75. You're right in that range. That's how much you're going to be able to get back, take off of your taxes the first year that you buy this. I don't know how much of that comes out, is basically getting paid back, part of your down payment, but that can really change how much you come out of pocket truly on an annual basis to own something like this. This is my opinion, but it's based on my own personal experience and the experience of the people that I have learned this industry from, who have been doing this since I was in diapers. So take that for what it's worth. My bird has come to join us today. Anyway, so where are we at on this deal? Roughly $1 million purchase price. We're bringing in $6,650 a month in rent. There's a bit of room to grow there. We're at roughly 20 to 25% expenses currently. That could go up, that could go down, depending on how you run it. Don't forget about the tax depreciation, the write-offs in year one. That is substantial. But all in all, what's the strategy? Where do we go from here? Who is most likely to be successful? Really, who does this deal make sense for? Obvious way to buy something is you have the cash. Maybe you sold a property a long time ago. Maybe you sold a business. Maybe you just have a great job, 401k, whatever it is. You have the cash. You can bring a 30, 40%, maybe a 50% down payment. Outside of just having the cash in your checking or your savings account, the self-directed IRA or investment account is a really good option. I do see a lot of people use. And the main reason that most people cite is they're not really a stock trader. They're not super comfortable giving their life savings, putting it in an account and having some other guy just invest it in stocks for them. So they elect to buy a real tangible asset that actually spits off cash. You're not just banking on businesses going up in value. And I mean, obviously I'm a little biased, but I do agree that that is a great hedge when you're not plugged into the stock market all day, every day. Next way I've seen people purchase, and many of the properties in the U District are currently owned this way, is some form of a partnership, whether it's family or just a couple friends. These are 2, 3, 5 people that have pooled their money, put it together, operate this business together, or operate this rental as a business and split the proceeds. And that is a very good way to do this. Thing that I'll mention, and what I think is the most likely buyer for this property right here that we're going over, is the 1031 exchange. And if you're not familiar, a quick Google search will tell you more than you could ever want to know about it. But the short story is you can sell a piece of real estate, and if you turn around and roll the proceeds into another piece of real estate, you don't pay any taxes that you would otherwise be paying for that money coming into your bank account. So why do I think that's the most likely scenario? We are in a situation now in Western Washington where we have a ton of smaller, mom and pop landlords, people that own a rental house or two. A couple things they've owned for a while, and they've just been managing it the way they always have. But what's happened is those people's houses have very likely doubled over the past 5 to 7 years. And they're not getting a ton more rent. If anything, they're losing more money because they're paying more on property taxes because the values went up so much. So I would challenge you, if you own a rental house, even a rental condo, any other piece of real estate that you rent out other than the home you live in, go look it up, go calculate, pull it up on Zillow, use the Zestimate. I don't care. Calculate what it's worth or get in the ballpark, and then compare that to what you're bringing in rent over an annual basis. That is your annual rate of return on equity, not your return on investment. I think a lot of people get kind of complacent with, they bought a house for $100,000 30, 40 years ago, and now they're looking at it as, my return on my investment is huge. Yeah, but that house is now worth $1 million and you're still renting it out for $2,300 a month. That is not a very good return. So the 1031 exchange, in my opinion, is how you can turn a very small, kind of putting along, not super lucrative rental portfolio into something that brings in more money than your day job, very likely. So the people that are getting up off the couch and going to make that happen, or have been doing this for many years and are now in a situation where they have a lot of equity they want to start generating a return on, that's who I think is going to be buying this property. You'll notice that I don't spend any time talking about a mortgage payment, and there's a good reason for that. I have no idea what you're going to put down on the property, which means I don't know what your loan amount will be, and I don't know what your payment's going to be. That's why we do the net operating income calculation. We take the rents, take out the expenses. That money is what's left over to make your mortgage payment, however big or small that may be. And that also explains why people often put a larger down payment on investments than they do on their regular home. Bigger down payment means a smaller loan, less interest over time, more money overall stays in your control rather than being sent to the bank. I know this is kind of a long one. I just had this conversation back to back a handful of times, so figured I'd just make a video. Hopefully this brought some clarity to what it's like owning a rental in the U District next to UW. So to recap, roughly $1,000 a room, maybe $875 to $1,200 is the range there. Usually 20-25% expenses. Tenants generally pay all of the utilities, so owners are property tax, insurance, repairs, things like that. You can pretty much apply that range of numbers to anything that's student housing in the U District. So more units, less units, still pretty much applicable. So if you'd like to see the other properties we have, I've got another 8-unit, 32-unit, a couple other properties of various sizes right around the University of Washington that are going to be coming up. I'll be doing some marketing for. So if you'd like to chat more, go more in depth, see the actual spreadsheet on any of these properties, and dive deep, give me a call.